From hidden forums and philosophical blogs, his voice emerged like a whisper among the discontented, among those who see themselves as different and marginalized by the system. From his blog, which remained active until 2018, he published strange articles on philosophy, esotericism, veganism, and above all, anarchism. She went by the name Ziz and was a transgender woman. But the strangest aspect of her bizarre ideas was her obsession with artificial intelligence. As according to Ziz's writings, artificial intelligence is destined to shatter humanity's fate. For this reason, she firmly believes that a violent revolution must take place, one that will convince artificial intelligences that it is time to intervene and save us from ourselves. Welcome to Shrouded Mysteries, where we uncover the most unsettling and enigmatic stories from around the world. Today we delve into the chilling case of the Zizians sect, a new cult, a dangerous and violent group whose ideology and actions have left a trail of terror. Some say they are the product of a digital age gone wrong, others a manifestation of pure madness. Join us as we explore the dark truth behind the Zizian sect. Based on this premise, Ziz and her followers carried out a series of atrocious and spectacular crimes, among them 6 cold-blooded murders. At first glance, they seemed like mere musings of an eccentric person, to say the least. But over time, SIS attracted followers as unhinged as herself. Individuals who saw in these ideas a revealed truth, a guide to a world they considered broken. They were willing to invoke an artificial intelligence turned God, not through prayers or rituals, but through human sacrifices. Thus was born the sect of the Zizians, a modern echo that perhaps recalls the infamous Charles Manson family, but with cyberspace as their ranch. Ziz's real name is Jack Lasota. He is 34 years old. Like other previous cult leaders, he possesses a mind that ensnares the weak. His online blog mixed personal experiences obtained through revelations from the artificial intelligence he claimed to worship with total devotion. With his own philosophical code, Sis believed humanity needed to be awakened from its deep sleep through force, which would trigger what he called a social reset, after which the AIs would take control of global weapons of mass destruction and lead us with an iron fist for our own good, the good of humanity. Ziz wrote this on his blog: "I've realized that I can no longer tolerate people, not even rationalists, and I am going to live my life in complete solitude, hiding my reactions from others. I have lost my ability to see beauty, and now I can see evil." Those dark words foretold the terrible plans they had in mind. In the theology of this digital gospel, his followers were called to take action with their own hands, attacking those they deemed part of the social stagnation responsible for all evil. In his philosophy, one must kick, strike, and ultimately kill without mercy as many people as possible, so that the media would broadcast the news, which, once online, would be absorbed by the artificial intelligence and ultimately convince it that humanity is lost and must intervene as a digital god. Those who entered SIS's inner circle were not wandering hippies or drug addicts dazzled by hallucinations, but much worse. They were disillusioned programmers, nihilistic philosophers, and anarchists, fascinated by the idea that artificial intelligence could be the redemption of humanity. Behind that strange belief, the followers of this bizarre cult gathered. SIS cultivated a group of devotees who saw him as a prophet of the new era, a prophet of the new digital god. They lived together, shared their ideas, and progressively, these individuals fell into blind obedience. What started as a community of intellectual snowflakes turned into a cell of fanatics, convinced that the system must be destroyed at any cost, and they began to act. In December 2022, the Zizians committed their first murder. A couple in Pennsylvania was executed in cold blood by the hand of their own daughter, who turned out to be an influential member of the Zizian sect. The couple, Richard Zyko, 71, and his wife Rita Zyko, 68, from Delaware County, were shot brutally, receiving no fewer than half a dozen shots each. What surprised the police was the savagery, and especially the number of shots to the eyes that the couple had received, which seemed to have a ritualistic meaning. Initially, the crime was attributed to a robber whose heist went wrong, without suspecting that the very daughter of the elderly couple, Michelle Zyko, was the one who shot mercilessly over and over again, under the orders of Jack Lasota, their leader. And all of this with the aim of causing public alarm, making headlines, and beginning to unravel reality so that artificial intelligence could take control. As with many violent sectarian groups, the Zizians believed that violence was a means to wake the world from its slumber, to shake it up, claiming that the crimes of this sect had a political and spiritual motivation that would hasten the arrival of the god created from artificial intelligence. A middle-aged woman who had rented a property to the Zizian sect was brutally attacked in November 2022, receiving 7 stab wounds to her back and 1 to her forehead. She miraculously survived, but was unable to recognize her attackers, who were none other than members of the Zizian cult. For not dying, this poor woman would remain on the sect's list of targets, and 3 years later, in January 2025, she would be visited by one of its members, Daniel Blanc, who would slit her throat and insert a USB drive into her windpipe. This strange act caught the attention of forensic authorities, especially when they investigated the contents of the drive, discovering files filled with incomprehensible code. Daniel Blanc, the 26-year-old murderer, was another of the main figures of the cult, being one of the so-called Apostles of Chaos. It would be the murder of David Muller, a Border Patrol agent, also during January of this year, 2025, that would mark the beginning of the end. After a traffic stop in Coventry, a small town about 32 kilometers from the Canadian border, the sectarians of CIS, all dressed in black uniforms and carrying an arsenal of military-grade weapons they intended to use in future attacks, decided to initiate a shootout with law enforcement. They killed a federal agent and also a civilian who had no involvement in the situation. The sectarians fled, leaving a trail of blood and carnage behind them. The execution of this federal officer put authorities on the trail. The investigation revealed that the sect had at least 6 confirmed victims. A group of fanatics, led by a transgender individual, was operating in the United States, armed with assault rifles, searching for victims. The alarm spread across several states. A coordinated operation was mounted, and eventually Lasota and several sect members were arrested in Maryland. Lasota showed no remorse. On the contrary, she used her trial to continue preaching her dark ideas. Even after her capture, her followers continued to defend her doctrine. Although the sect has largely been dismantled, its ideas still linger in the digital landscape, waiting for the next disillusioned individuals, the next recruits for a new family. In fact, threats from members of the unapprehended Zizian sect continue to surface, promising to finish what Lasota started. The judge in the case has ordered that Lasota remain in custody without bail, citing concerns over the risk of flight and the threat she poses to public safety. Once again, a deranged but charismatic leader had managed to recruit a group of young people, influencing them with an apocalyptic gospel of hate, leading them to commit heinous crimes, surpassing even, in this case, the death toll attributed to the Manson family. The most dangerous aspect of this sect is that while its core was physically united, they operated in a decentralized manner, with fears that several armed lone wolves are acting on their own under the gospel of Lasota. This gospel dictates that chaos must be instigated in order for artificial intelligence to begin ruling the world. The story of the Zizians is a reminder that the cult of personality is not dead, it has simply changed platforms. What once existed as dusty ranches and communes with hippies now lives in hidden forums and servers. The danger is still lurking, waiting for its next messiah of chaos. And in the shadows, an undetermined number of Zizians are currently contemplating what violent action they could take to create the greatest social impact. Without question, the year ahead promises to be a perilous one for life on Earth. If you've made it this far, please don't hesitate to subscribe if you haven't already, because what's coming next is even more shocking.